Good evening, and welcome to our daily devotional reading. Let's quiet our minds, turn inward, open our hearts, and listen to Plato. Socrates is still speaking at his trial. I should like you, O men of Athens, to join me in examining what I conceive to be his inconsistency, Meletus' inconsistency. And do you, Meletus, answer? And I must remind you that you are not to interrupt me if I speak in my accustomed manner. Did ever man, Meletus, believe in the existence of human things, and not of human beings? I wish, men of Athens, that he could answer, and not be always trying to get up with an interruption. Did ever any man believe in horsemanship and not in horses, or in flute playing and not in flute players? No, my friend. I will answer to you and to the court, as you refuse to answer for yourself. There is no man who ever did. But now please to answer the next question. Can a man believe in spiritual and divine agency and not in spirits or demigods? He cannot. I am glad that I have extracted that answer by the assistance of the court. Nevertheless, you swear in the indictment that I teach and believe in divine and or spiritual agencies, new or old, no matter for that. At any rate, I believe in spiritual agencies, as you say and swear in the affidavit, but if I believe in divine things, I must believe in spirits or demigods. Is not that true? Yes, that is true, for I may assume that your silence gives assent to that. Now, what are spirits or demigods? Are they not either gods or the sons of gods? Is that true? Yes, that is true. But this is just the ingenious riddle of which I was speaking. The demigods or spirits are gods, and you say first that I don't believe in gods, and then again that I do believe in gods. That is, if I believe in demigods. For if the demigods are the illegitimate sons of gods, whether by the nymphs or by any other mother, as is thought, that, as all men will allow, necessarily imply the existence of their parents. You might as well affirm the existence of mules, and deny that of horses and asses. Such nonsense, Meletus, could only have been intended by you as a trial of me. You have put this into the indictment because you had nothing real of which to accuse me. But no one who has a particle of understanding will ever be convinced by you that the same man can believe in divine and superhuman things and yet not believe that they are gods and demigods and heroes. I have said enough in answer to the charge of Meletus. Any elaborate defense is unnecessary. But as I was saying before, I certainly have many enemies, and this is what will be my destruction if I am destroyed. Of that I am certain. Not Meletus, nor yet Anatus, but the envy and detraction of the world, which has been the death of many good men, and will probably be the death of many more. There is no danger of me being the last of them. Someone will say, and are you not ashamed, Socrates, of a course of life which is likely to bring you to an untimely end? To him I may fairly answer, there you are mistaken. A man who is good for anything ought not to calculate the chance of living or dying. He ought only to consider whether in doing anything he is doing right or wrong, acting the part of a good man or of a bad. Whereas according to your view, the heroes who fell at Troy were not good for much, and the son of Thetis, above all Achilles, who altogether despised danger in comparison with disgrace. And when his goddess mother said to him in his eagerness to slay Hector that if he avenged his companion Patroclus and slew Hector, he would die himself. Fate, as she said, waits upon you next after Hector. He, hearing this, utterly despised danger and death, and instead of fearing them, feared rather to live in dishonor and not to avenge his friend. Let me die that next, he replied, and be avenged of my enemy, rather than abide here by the beaked ships, a scorn and a burden of the earth. Had Achilles any thought of death and danger? For wherever a man's place is, whether the place which he has chosen or that in which he has been placed by a commander, there he ought to remain in the hour of danger. He should not think of death or of anything, but of disgrace. And this, O men of Athens, is a true saying. Strange indeed would be my conduct, O men of Athens, if I, who, when I was ordered by the generals who you chose to command me at Pudea and Amphipolis and Delium, remained where they placed me, like any other man facing death. If I say now, when as I conceive and imagine, God orders me to fulfill the philosopher's mission of searching into myself and other men. I were to desert my post through fear of death or any other fear. That would indeed be strange, and I might justly be arraigned in court for denying the existence of the gods if I disobeyed the oracle because I was afraid of death. Then I should be facing that I was wise when I was not wise. Then I should be fancying that I was wise when I was not wise. For this fear of death is indeed the pretense of wisdom, and not real wisdom, being the appearance of knowing the unknown, since no one knows whether death, which they in their fear apprehend to be the greatest evil, may not be the greatest good. Is there not here conceit of knowledge, which is disgraceful sort of ignorance? And this is the point in which, as I think, I am superior to men in general, and which I might perhaps fancy myself wiser than other men, that whereas I know but little of the world below, and do not suppose that I know, but I do know that injustice and disobedience to the better, whether God or man, is evil and dishonorable, and I will never fear or avoid a possible good, rather than a certain evil. and I will never fear or avoid a possible good, rather than a certain evil. And therefore, if you let me go now and reject the counsels of Anytus, who said that if I were not put to death, I ought not to have been prosecuted, and that if I escape now, your sons will all be utterly ruined by listening to my words. If you say to me, Socrates, this time we will not mind Anytus and will let you off, but upon one condition, that are to inquire and speculate in this way anymore, and that if you are caught doing this again, you shall die. If this was the condition on which you let me go, I should reply, Men of Athens, I honor and love you, but I shall obey God rather than you. And while I have life and strength, I shall never cease from the practice and teaching of philosophy, exhorting anyone whom I meet after my manner, and convincing him, saying, O my friend, why do you, who are a citizen of the great and mighty and wise city of Athens, care so much about laying up the greatest amount of money and honor and reputation, and so little about wisdom and truth, and the greatest improvement of the soul, which you never regard or heed at all? Are you not ashamed of this? And if the person with whom I am arguing says, Yes, but I do care, I do not depart or let him go at once. I interrogate and examine and cross-examine him, and if I think that he has no virtue but only says that he has, I reproach him with undervaluing the greater and overvaluing the less. And this I should say to anyone, everyone whom I meet, young and old, citizen and alien, but especially to the citizens, inasmuch as they are my brethren. For this is the command of God, as I would have you know. And I believe that to this day no greater good has ever happened in the state than my service to God. For I do nothing but go about persuading you all, old and young alike, not to take thought of your persons and your properties, but first and chiefly to care about the greatest improvement of the soul. I tell you that virtue is not given by money, but from virtue come money and every other good of man, public as well as private. This is my teaching, and if this is the doctrine which corrupts the youth, my influence is ruinous indeed. But if anyone says that this is not my teaching, he is speaking in untruth. Therefore, O men of Athens, I say to you, do as Anytus bids, or not as Anytus bids, and either acquit me or not. But whatever you do, know that I shall never alter my ways, not even if I have to die many times. Men of Athens, do not interrupt, but hear me. There was an agreement between us that you should hear me out, and I think that what I am going to say will do you good. For I have something more to say, at which you may be inclined to cry out. But I beg that you will not do this. I would have you know that if you kill such a one as I am, you will injure yourselves more, then you will injure me. Meletus and Anytus will not injure me, they cannot. For it is not in the nature of things that a bad man should injure a better than himself. I do not deny that he may, perhaps, kill him, or drive him into exile, or deprive him of civil rights. And he may imagine, and others may imagine, that he is doing him a great injury. But in that I do not agree with him. For the evil of doing as Anytus is doing, of unjustly taking away another man's life, is greater far. And now, Athenians, I am not going to argue for my own sake, as you may think, but for yours, that you may not sin against the God, or lightly reject his boon by condemning me. For if you kill me, you will not easily find another like me, who, if I may use such a ludicrous figure of speech, am a sort of gadfly, given to the state by the god. And the state is like a great and noble steed who is sturdy and his motion owing to his very size, and it requires to be stirred into life. I am that gadfly which God has given the state, and all day long and in all places am always fastening upon you, arousing and persuading and reproaching you. Thus far our scripture reading of the day. There's a half-remembered line from Kierkegaard in my mind. Socrates, Socrates. I do not recall the exact words, but it's something about that we need a Socrates in our time. Kierkegaard himself, I recently learned, consider himself a bit of a gadfly as well to the church. He tried to reawaken true Christianity, inward Christianity, not a mere adherence to the state religion, but a life-altering, character-altering, living faith. And what is Socrates trying to awaken in us? It's very clear in this scripture that we just read, I think. He's trying to open our eyes to what is truly important. To being good. To take care of our souls. I, for one, do not know that there is such a thing as a soul, an eternal soul. I do not even think that there is such a thing as a self at this stage of my life. Who knows what I will think tomorrow? But there is something about us human beings that make us different and unique and incredibly beautiful. Whatever this is, which we call soul and which has been called soul through the centuries, this inward ability, this higher self, this extraordinary creature which seems to dwell in us. It can be developed. It can be cultivated. It can be beautified. We can be beautified. I feel that I must apologize for my cowardice of yesterday. All the stock of gods after 3 days of being immersed in other people was a bit too much. I did have time today for reading and rituals. I realized that it's not people, it's not being able to do what I want to do for too long time. That gets to me. It makes my soul a bit ugly. And I fear that many of us, I am incredibly blessed, lucky, fortunate, to have very limited obligations, monetary and otherwise, upon me. And so I do have time for reading and ritual and wasting time, just wasting time. That is what I realized I needed the most when I didn't have any opportunity to do so. Just wasting time. It sounds funny, I suppose. But we're human beings. We need to be allowed to just be. What got to me and what gets to me on a regular basis is this, the certainty that Socrates had that the god placed the calling on him and he had to. He could not do otherwise. Where do we find our certainty? I've been told by a very wise man that certainty is not what we're supposed to seek. Can't remember what the alternative was. I'm looking at 2 books that I laid beside me. Oh, I don't know. The light is a bit bright. The Myth of Sisyphus and Meaning in Life and Why It Matters. I'll be rereading both these books this month and writing about it. The important thing, some wise person, I see the name in front of me, but I can't pronounce it, said, is not to be cured, but to live with one's ailments. And seeking what is true is not seeking what is desirable. For me, maybe the cares that I concern myself more than my soul is not money or possessions, but certainty. And comfort. And I suppose if you love all only for the sake of the one, that these things should loosen their grip on one. I hope that I will be able to remain true to truth on the search. I recently wrote, when I left the desert, when I left for the desert, when I flee into the desert, leaving organized religion, I always said, because I left when I was in a position of leadership in the church, and I always said that I will not take anyone with me into the desert. I refuse to take care of other souls. I do not mind being lost, but I'm not going to cause anyone else to be lost with me. And then recently I wrote that it's been so long. I do feel that I have acquired enough resources to be able to quench the thirst of those who are new to the desert. And one of the thirsts that I think needs quenching is this thirst for meaning. Now, my personal take on this is, and that's the idea of reading these books together. I will work it out a little bit more organized this month. Is that meaning is a sort of, it's what the gods were to the Epicureans. It becomes so overpowering in our lives and such a so big focus that it distracts us from living. And really, as with the gods was to the Epicureans, that they don't bother with us, so why should we bother with them? Meaning in the universe doesn't bother with us. Why should we bother with that? But I don't know. That is my stance. The question then is how to live from that, right? I've been reading another book today. Maybe I should finish with this, because this spoke to what I was worrying about yesterday. And it's a woman. And I'm proud to learn from a woman. Audre Lorde. I think that's how to pronounce her name, I'm not sure. And political work will not save our souls, no matter how correct and necessary that work is. Yet it is true that without political work we cannot hope to survive long enough to effect any change. And self-empowerment is the most deeply political work there is, and the most difficult. I refuse to settle for anything less than a rigorous pursuit of the possible in myself. At the same time, making a distinction between what is possible and what the outside world drives me to do in order to prove I am human. It means being able to recognize my successes and to be tender with myself, even when I fail. Now, I'm 100% sure that you will see me fail a gazillion times. So be it. As we're failing, as we're striving, as we're trying, may the spirit of Sophia be with us all.